Hello and welcome back to another episode of How It Was Made, presented by Continuify. I'm your host, Josh Hines, and today we're talking about brand positioning. So now that you have an idea of like what you want to do and who you want to do it for, and probably already have a good idea of what you want to offer at this point, considering you know who you want to offer it to, the next idea, like I said, is brand positioning. This is one of those things that I'm still kind of trying to experiment and figure out on my own with Continuify. But the idea is with brand positioning is that it's how you want to be recognized in the market. Think again, going back to this beachfront idea, right? That the first time someone engages with you, what is that one thing that you want them to remember you for that's going to allow you to differentiate yourself from everybody else that does something similar? So, for instance, a really good example is when you think about soft drinks, who's the first person you think of? Probably Coca-Cola or Pepsi, maybe Mountain Dew. When you think about American cars, who do you think about? Probably Ford and Chevy. So, this is brand positioning. It's the idea of you figuring out the beachfront or category that you want to position yourself in. And then within that category, how you can stand out. The issue here, though, with brand positioning is a lot of times, of course, as we just saw, people already in their minds have determined who is what. Because in our minds, we like to categorize everything and, oh, I have this engagement, or this friend's good at that, or this friend's good at that, or I don't like this friend because of this. You're quickly categorizing everything in your life and putting everything in its place so that later down in life, when something happens, you can quickly recall it. The issue is people do this with brands as well. So when you're trying to enter into the marketplace and position your brand, and there's already people there competing, the idea that you need to figure out is how to stand out and capture people's attention. For instance, with me with Continuify, I was doing a quick search here just for actual numbers, but there are in the United States alone 2,909 solution partners like myself who are reaching out in the marketplace and saying, hey, I can help you with HubSpot. And I'm sitting here, and of course, in my mind, I'm trying to figure out my brand position. Like, how can I position myself in the market so that people remember me and think of me for something when they think about something within their HubSpot ecosystem? And of course, a lot of people that you'll see a lot of differentiation is that some people will capitalize down on the job function. So they'll say, I help with HubSpot onboarding, or I help with HubSpot migrations, or I help with HubSpot marketing operations, or I help specifically with HubSpot revenue operations or HubSpot customer success. And they'll narrow down on the function. You'll see a lot of people, especially considering HubSpot is like a lot of their customers are software companies. You'll see people narrowing down on SaaS brands, which is kind of like the path that I've taken so far. Like if you go to my homepage of a website, you'll typically see, or at least you'd hope that you'd see, that this is what my software does and this is who it's for. So a lot of times, especially these days, and I'm going to share a couple of references that I've used to kind of start thinking through my brand positioning myself, is that the framework is I do XYZ for XYZ to get XYZ outcomes is typically like the framework that you'll see a lot of these brands take. So for instance, on my website, the outcome that I'm hoping people to get is it's time to take control of operations. It's still a very vague position that I'm taking, that it probably doesn't resonate a lot because it's like, okay, like how do I, like, what are you guys going to help me do with my operations? Like I said, this is very much a still work process. I feel like your brand position, until you actually find it, is going to be a very evolving and experimental process that, especially as you're starting out like myself, like there's not a lot of volume that you can kind of get like significance on to say, hey, like this is actually working or this isn't working. So that makes it difficult as well when you're first starting out. But over time, you'll start to understand. Another way to think about this is like a lot of people share it as like an elevator pitch. Like you're going out to networking events, or a lot of times when you're engaging with new people, they're like, "What do you do? What is the first thing that you say that you want them to remember that you do, so that if something happens or they know somebody, they think of you?" It's another way to think of brand positioning, is that elevator speech. So for me, it's like going back to my website, like the main headline is it's time to take control of operations. And then I say for who? For people using HubSpot and their SaaS platforms. Yeah, could I probably get a lot more nitty gritty on this, especially considering my ICP is like early stage software companies in that 5 to 20 million ARR range. Like I'm not looking to help somebody that's way established or has raised $100 million of venture capital, and at that point they're looking to build out a whole like team, and they're looking for full-time people where they can have more control versus like maybe outsourcing something. So I like over time I'll probably narrow this in a lot better and kind of think of like true outcomes of what I'm trying to help people achieve. But at this very beginning, I'm still experimenting with how I want to position myself in the market and be known for. But like I shared, for you building your brand out, think of again the outcome that you're trying to get, like very specific outcome for a very specific type of person in a very specific like time period, or like I'm helping you do this cheaper. Like I'm not shelling this, but that's like the true outcome is like you're either going to help them save time or you're going to help them do something cheaper. So it's like outcome, person, time, revenue impact, and kind of position that so when someone lands on your website typically, or maybe even like the heroes of your social media, like you do that really well on LinkedIn, they know exactly what you do, who you do it for, and like what they're going to achieve by engaging with your brand. This is sometimes, like I said, an elevator pitch, a value proposition. This kind of gets all interchanged, but it all kind of stands for the same thing. It's like, how do you want to be known in the market so that you can stand out? 2 resources that you can check out that would help this a lot. And I'm going to share my screen here. So the first one is Al Ries. He has since passed, but his daughter runs the organization now. Her name's Laura. But he, back in the day, created all of these brand positioning books and how to think through the process of being able to stand out in the marketplace. His biggest book that I highly recommend is this Positioning the Battle for Your Mind. And again, that goes back to when I say soda, you think of Coke. When I say American cars, you probably think of Ford or Chevy. When I think of cell phones, you probably think of either Apple or an Android, depending on your preference. But there's already pre-established positions that people have, and how you can go through the idea of being able to capture a part of someone's mind and be able to be rememberable. Great book. I highly suggest reading this if you're looking to launching your own brand. It'll definitely put you leagues ahead of your competition and actually probably get a lot more traction in the market than if you were to just come up with something on your own. So another brand I want to share is StoryBrand. It's a great website that has evolved a lot. This guy right here is the founder. His name is Donald Miller. He has been doing this brand for a while now. If you could be a potential business, if you're just getting started, that you can get StoryBrands certified. You can become a guide and actually help brands go through this process. But again, this is kind of going back to brand positioning and the idea of like, what story do you want to tell in the market so that you can stand out? And he helps you kind of go through that process in a matter of 3 steps. A lot of his videos are available up front. He also has a book called StoryBrand. Highly recommend getting it. You can get it here with the book, but he has an online course, and you can watch a live workshop, or for a good chunk of money, if you're already an established brand and you just want to get better at brand positioning, you can do this private workshop with your brand. But yeah, these 2 books, the Al Ries Positioning Battle for the Mind and the StoryBrand book, are 2 great, phenomenal books for brand positioning and how to basically stand out in the market and allow people to know exactly what you do, so that when that problem arises for either themselves or a friend or a family member or someone they're working with, they can be like, hey, you need to talk to this person. That is the end goal with brand positioning. Again, this is another video of how it was made, presented by Continify. My name is Josh. Until next time, keep building.